Before I get into what I was going to talk about, that this was your first time carrying the Torah in a procession. It was the first time doing the Ashrei, right? Just to remind you that just say yes to a small thing and do something new for the first time is amazing. Like that, we are a safe space to just try something new. And like that should be the whole thing. Like that's, there's so many smaller spaces within the congregation to try out, whether it be helping in junior congregation or in one of the alternative minyanim or at the early service, what? Or ushering, right? Of welcoming people. It's just sort of the best of us to feel that we can be safe to do things. So, Shabbat Shalom. And that's your second sermon today. So here's the third one. But today's message will be simple and clear and straightforward. That since the time of Noah and the ark and the flood, wine has been part of our story. That we can remember what we read back in late October. There was the flood, the rainbow covenant, and then Noah's three sons leave the ark in verse 18 and in 19. And then the very next verse, Genesis 9, the very next verse says that Noah, the tiller of the soil, first planted a vineyard. It was the very first thing Noah does when he gets off of the ark. And it seems like the very first thing that he did after the destruction of the world was to plant a vineyard. The very next verse is he drank the wine and became drunk, and he uncovered himself within his tent. Not a good start for humanity's reset. You can imagine the rabbis were not very happy about this. Rashi said he, meaning Noah, profaned, degraded himself, for he should have occupied himself first with planting something different, right? Maybe a grain, or maybe a redwood tree, or I don't know, something that would have more benefits than the vineyard. So I hear you, Rashi. And maybe you are underappreciating the emotional devastation, though, of what Noah experienced. But that's for a different sermon. My point is that wine has been part of the human experience and the Jewish experience from the very beginning. Wine is used for worship, it is used to degrade, and for merriment. Think King Ahasuerus' party for Vashti and for Esther. Wine is refrained from by the Nazir, and the rabbis of the Talmud have a lot to say about wine. Of course, we have the 4 cups of wine at the Seder. And in the book of Song of Songs, which we heard a section from today, wine is mentioned 49 times in Shir HaShirim. So it seems appropriate to spend a little bit of time talking about the role of wine and alcohol more broadly. Society has a strange relationship with alcohol. Commercials praise it for making us cool and sophisticated. A cold beer is the reward for a hard day of labor. And a glass of wine by candlelight is the perfect aphrodisiac. Shir HaShirim has many examples of the latter. In chapter 5, I have come to my garden, my own, my bride. I have plucked my myrrh and spice, eaten my honey and honeycomb, drunk my wine and my milk. Eat, lovers, and drink deep of love. Or in chapter 7, the lover describes his partner's form from head to toe, including, your navel is like a round goblet. Let mixed wine not be lacking. You should read the rest of chapter 7 as well, but there's children present, so. In Ray Shinlin's book, Wine, Women, and Death, Medieval Hebrew Poems on the Good Life, he sets a context for understanding the wine culture found in medieval poetry. He writes, Hebrew poetry about wine presupposes a communal situation in which wine is drunk. So, in order to appreciate the poetry, it is useful to have some knowledge of the social institutions from which it is derived, the wine party. Although copious prose sources describe the wine drinking practices of the Andalusian Muslims, we have next to no documentation other than the poetry itself for this aspect of Jewish life. Since the Hebrew and Arabic poetry are so similar in content, it seems reasonable to begin by describing some of the practices of the dominant group and to assume that they apply to Jews as well. The Andalusian practice was to introduce the wine after dinner. And as they did in antiquity, the drinkers sat on cushions placed around the room with little tables by their side. The wine was ordinarily mixed with water. Sometimes each reveler had a crystal goblet for his own use. Other times each drank from a common cup, passed from drinker to drinker by a wine pourer known as a saki. That servant, who played an important role in creating the desired atmosphere, was usually a young boy specially trained to perform his office with flirtatious charm and in accordance with prescribed rules of etiquette. When the function was performed by young girls, they wore their hair short and dressed like boys. The erotic aspect of the saki's contribution to the revel will be discussed in chapter 2, which we will not be covering. Although parties did occasionally take place indoors, the favored site was outside on the patio of a palace with gardens, fountains, and canals, on a lawn by the bank of a river, or even on a boat plying the nearby rivers. The favored time was night, usually all night, with the drinkers alternately dozing and waking. The experience that they cultivated was a state between waking and sleep, in which the revelers lost their orientation in time and gained a feeling of night infinitely prolonged. Accordingly, Arabic wine poetry has yielded wonderful descriptions of the night sky and meditations of the passage of time. The many poems that begin with a call to rise early for drinking are presumably addressed to a sleeping group of revelers, urging them to take a cup again. This call to the morning cup is often juxtaposed, ironically, with the Mizun's call to prayer. So, and it goes on. So, wine drinking was portrayed as a fabulous event, literally an intoxicating experience. So, Shir HaShirim and the poetry of Shmuel HaNagid, Moshe ben Ezra, and Dunash ben Labrat, which Shinlin shares, feels like they were at the same party, even though they were millennia apart between the poetry and Shir HaShirim. Today, alcohol is a social lubricant. It makes you feel fun and relaxed and cool. Some disconnect the news reports of college hazing as aberrations, or people just say that it's just kids taking it too far. But there is a dark side of alcohol we must be aware of. We have to be more sensitive to each other to truly make our community as welcoming and embracing as possible. To see each other means to see the struggles we have and to let people know that this is a safe space for them. For many, alcohol is a struggle. Let me give you a practical solution before I even unpack the problem. In our house, we only serve grape juice for Kiddush. We want everyone to be included around the table, a child or someone that's pregnant or someone in recovery. Whomever is at our table, we want our home to be a place of welcome, not of anxiety. Alcohol abuse and alcoholism is common in Jewish households today. Period. Fact. We as a community like to think that Jewish homes are above the societal ills of alcoholism or domestic violence or addiction or other problems. We clung to an idealized sense of a Jewish household, the sort of Jewish Norman Rockwell image. It pointed us in a direction, but it also inadvertently shunned individuals and families who varied from that mythic vision. I'm telling you that within the Jewish community and within Bethel specifically, people's lives are far more diverse and complicated and troubled than outside observers can realize. Alcoholism may be dressed up by more expensive bottles of bourbon, Woodford on the rocks rather than wild turkey in a brown paper bag, but its impacts are not. Before COVID, we hosted an AA meeting at Bethel that went on for some time. Most AA meetings take place in churches, and I felt strongly that while Jews attend AA meetings in many places, we should offer a space that would make them feel more comfortable. It was a quiet innovation, and I was proud of it. As with many things impacted by COVID, the meeting dispersed, but I hope that we can bring it back at some point. There are dozens of AA meetings each week within a mile of Bethel. These are important and open to anyone who would benefit from them. The Del Rey Club is just down the street, and I wish we could give a Jewish space for these meetings as well. As I said at the start of this talk, today's message is simple and clear and straightforward. At this time of great focus on wine, at the Seder, during the Song of Songs, let's also focus on not over-glorifying alcohol. Let's be aware that our actions send subtle and powerful messages to others, people we love and people we make community with, that they have a place here. Wine is part of our rituals and culture and society. With that comes real struggles. And those with struggles are the people that need community the most. So as we say, Asher Kirishanu b'mitzvot v'tzivanu, meaning who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us, let's realize all the ways and people who make us sacred. Seeing each other in our fullness, struggles and all is a powerful way to bring sanctity into the world and into our community. Let's be more aware of our relationship with alcohol and the problems which can manifest. And for those struggling, you have a place here. You have a place here. And I'm always available for a cup of coffee or a walk. Shabbat Shalom.